kanina, pero my name is Trixie Cruz-Angeles and we're doing live for Luminous by Trixie Cruz-Angeles and Ahmed Paglinawan. Don't forget to like and follow dun sa aming YouTube. Dito. Don't forget to subscribe here on our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and follow dun sa aming page sa Facebook, Luminous by Trixie Cruz-Angeles and Ahmed Paglinawan. Okay. May kaso si Koko Pimentel dati nung nanganak yung asawa niya. Sinamahan niya knowing that he had been tested for COVID. Okay, alam ko kasi may audio eh. So, he had been tested for COVID, sinamahan ng asawa niya sa hospital, and he did not inform the hospital kung ano yung state of health niya, yung condition niya, that he had been tested for COVID. At the time, very mataas na, nag-institute na ng health protocols ang ating DOH or the, if not mistaken, DOH or the IATF. And that those health protocols, yung mga quarantine requirements and all that were set both by the IATF and the DOH pursuant to the law. Ang batas dito, RA 11332, also known as the mandatory reporting. Ayan, an act providing for policies and prescribing procedures on surveillance and response to notifiable diseases. Mahaba yung title nito. Epidemics and health events of public health concern and appropriating funds therefore, repealing for the purpose the law on reporting of communicable diseases. RA 11332 po. Here's the thing. Marami na. Meron ng issue kagad eh. Okay, here's the thing. Aside from the fact na alam tayo, lahat tayo nagulantang because he was caught not just going to the hospital, he also went to the mall and to the grocery and kumbaga, he was not acting like somebody who should have been under quarantine kasi wala pa yung resulta ng kanyang RT-PCR test. Okay. So aside from the behavior that we all remember, at the time, diba, aside from the behavior, at the time, wala pa yung bayanihan to heal as one act, if I remember correctly. But we had to rely on Republic Act 11332. But I'd like to point out there's a Bayanihan 1 Act and a Bayanihan 2 Act. This becomes significant later on. Okay, yesterday ba, lumabas na yung balita na dinismiss ng DOJ yung kanyang kaso, the case. There were two initially. The first that he was investigated, if I'm not mistaken, either by the NBI or by the PNP. At hindi po yata natuloy yun. Parang pinagbigyan na lang siya. There's no case daw, and so on. This one was filed by a lawyer named Attorney Rico Quicho, who is also a professor of law. If you will remember correctly, from the very start of COVID and even, kumbaga, 2019 pa lang, we were already reporting on this law. Kasi nga, it had come out recently, there were no IRRs yet, but we talked about it on Karambola at ilang beses namin in-explain itong batas na ito. Our concern at the time was whether or not the DOH Secretary Duque would be capable of handling a crisis like an epidemic, and in this case a pandemic, given the law that he was already that had been enacted. Medyo malawak kasi yung coverage nitong batas na ito. However, okay, so with the violation of quarantine protocols by former Senator Koko Pimentel, na-filean siya ng kaso by Attorney Quicho because of this supposedly and clearly irresponsible behavior. Okay? Hindi sa judgmental tayo, but he should have known better. Diba? Guys, wag mo na mag-judge. Attorney Quicho is the complainant, hindi siya yung fiscal. Okay? Ngayon, what he cited was Republic Act 11332. At ang violation dito, if I'm not mistaken, at matagal na namin pinopoint out na pwedeng gamitin ito, was Section 9. It said, prohibited acts, the following shall be prohibited under its act. And the pertinent provision says, non-cooperation of the person or entities identified as having the notifiable disease or affected by the health event of public concern. The health event of public concern here is the pandemic of COVID-19. So he did not cooperate despite the fact that he was under suspicion of having it. Later on, it was proven, the test results came out and allegedly, I say allegedly kasi at the time wala sa ating naniwala, he tested negative for this. Ngayon, pursuant to that section, merong nakalagay dun sa batas na may the DOH can do the following. To perform their disease surveillance and response functions, authorized health personnel from the DOH and its local counterparts have the statutory and regulatory authority, meaning may capability sila yung autoridad dito to enforce the following. At nakalagay doon, number 4, rapid containment, quarantine, and isolation, disease prevention, and control measures and product recall. In other words, pag-institute ng control measures na ito, which means na in-establish yung protocols for quarantine, tapos hindi nag-cooperate si Senator Pimentel with these protocols that were set by the DOH. Ngayon, merong itong penalties. Ayon dito sa Section 10, any person or entity found to have violated Section 9 of this Act, yung sinite natin, non-cooperation, shall be penalized with a fine of not less than 20,000 pesos, but not more than 50,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 1 month, but no more than 6 months. So may kulong, may fine. So na-file yung kaso twice, and in the first case, alam na natin na na-dismiss. The second case was only dismissed the other day. Bakit? Because the problem is, medyo vague eh. Non-cooperation of the person identified as having the notifiable disease or affected by the health event. Non-cooperation. How is non-cooperation defined? Hindi rin maliwanag dito sa rules na promulgate ng DOH. Pero maliwanag kung ano yung authority na sinusuway ni Mr. Pimentel at the time. Considering how dangerous COVID is, particularly with any group, and that he violated quarantine protocols in a hospital and in a grocery store where there are so many people, medyo masama ito, 'di ba? Kaya ang daming nag-react, ang sama-sama ng reaction. May suspecha ka na may sakit ka, hindi ka nag-quarantine. Bakit lalabas-labas ka? At first may mga nanganak kasi yung asawa, and so on, excited, or manganganak yung asawa, excited, and so on and so forth. He actually put his wife and future offspring in danger. Diba? Now, why was it dismissed? Because when you file for a criminal case, dapat very precise yung language ng batas para we are all put on notice on what kind of actions we can do or not do. Dito, nakalagay lang non-cooperation. Now, what does non-cooperation entail? It could entail a lot of things. Diba? Hindi naman nalagay doon sa rules exactly what non-cooperation is. And here's the bad part. Up to now, hindi pa rin yan clear. How can this be made clear? By creating rules on what constitutes non-cooperation. Or, they could have amended this law and said violation of quarantine protocols. Diba? If you have tested, or if you have been tested, but don't have yet the results, you cannot go out. Violation of quarantine protocols such as these will lead to fine and imprisonment. Walang ganon. Hindi siya specific. Hindi rin there was an opportunity for our lawmakers to change the law when it came to creating the Bayanihan Act, hindi pa rin nagawa. The DOH can still do it by creating rules for this. They're not doing it. In short, pinapabayaan natin to. Hindi tayo gumagawa na, or hindi gumagawa ng more precise rules na violation of quarantine results in this and that. For some reason, hindi na-address itong particular law na ito. Parang, in case you haven't noticed, nababanggit lang itong RA 11332 kapag quarantine lang ang pinag-uusapan. But before that, even dito sa pagkagawa ng IATF, no, it does not boil down to IRR because the law actually should have been changed. It's better if it was the law that was more precise because this is a criminal law and which has to and calls for precision. In fact, the Supreme Court can strike this down as being void for vagueness. So, clearly, this one, parang when they were drafting this law, parang it was not an intention to make it a criminal law, pero sinabi nila, paano kung nag-violate? O di sige, lagyan natin ng penalties, but they forgot to clean this up. There was an opportunity to clean it up during the discussions on Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2. In both instances, they did not take this up. Diba? Ngayon, they're trying to enforce discipline, they're trying to enforce things like social distancing and all of that, but there are no corresponding penalties. Now, for social distancing, makikita natin, okay, sige, siguro naman, hindi dapat tayo makukulong for violation ng social distancing, pero, yun ay kung maliit yung grupo. Paano kung katulad ng Quiapo? Diba? O dun sa malapit sa church where the police authorities are, where the LGU authorities are, where the religious authorities are, where the priests were, ganyan, yung mga in relation to the Quiapo church, kayang i-enforce. Pero dun, pag malayo na kayo, hala, kumpul-kumpul na sila. And what do we do about that? Who becomes liable for these things? Diba? They keep happening, pero nobody is getting punished. And that is the true message of Koko Pimentel's the case that got dismissed. Here's the thing, even before this case, marami nang nakasuhan sa hukuman. The early instances, yung mga nahuhuli ng pulis sa mga checkpoints during the lockdown, kinasuhan yung iba sa kanila. And guess what happened? The courts are dismissing them. They're dismissing them because the provision itself is so vague. Diba? Non-cooperation. Buti pa yung kung kinuli ka ng pulis, tapos sumuway ka, ayaw mong sumunod. O ayan, disobedience to a person in authority. Pwede pa yon, pero dito, it was simply violation of quarantine protocols. The fact is also, and we have to remember this, is that I don't think anybody really wants to enforce them. Not the way things are going. Diba? Ang daming sinasabi na, ayun, nagkukumpul-kumpul ang mga tao. What do the authorities do? Maghiwalay kayo. Okay rin yun. Pero you can't do that in huge crowds. When it comes to huge crowds, somebody was responsible for that. And there has to be a corresponding penalty dun sa mga tao who are responsible for causing crowds. Diba? So, problem is, it's not in our law. And as we see it, anybody else later on who gets sued for violation of quarantine protocols is going to get off. Yun talaga ang sad truth dito. Okay? Checking your questions. Which, syempre, hindi ko nakikita pa ngayon. Yun. Magandang tanghali, Ma'am Janet, Bernadette Cortez, Imelda Alejo, Attorney No Case, Gems Core Channel, Lula Azurin, Avelino Taroy, Nelly Borata Dorado, Season C, Mercy Ordinario, Binelisa Ortiliano, Lady Blessed, Jackie Tonho, Wendy Gumera, Princess Eureka, okay, Guillermo Nalili, Jean Air Nierva. Alright, Fred Sanke, Megazoid 2016, Elmer Bernardino, Gavin Elcano, Fat and Fab. Okay. So, sinong pumalya? Si Kicho ba o piskal kaya nabasura? Walang pumalya dito. It's the law. So, I guess indirectly, you can say it's the legislature. Sabi ni Season Z, expected na naman yan. Okay. Pero expected, not because, most of us, we expected because people don't didn't play. Di ba noong time na yon, and I remember this very distinctly, walang gustong kumagkaso kay Koko Pimentel at the time. I don't know if he was exerting influence, pero it seemed na yung defensive siya. He would even his press releases after that were very defensive, and they were not helping him. And then later on, sinasabi ng mga ibang opisyal, wag na, wag na, wag na. And if he was, I think he was still in the Senate at that time, hindi man lang siya nagkaroon ng ethics case. Pero yung mga ganyan, expected na natin yan. Diba? The Senate nor the House, none of them like to hold their own members accountable. Wala silang dinidisiplina na sarili nilang mga miyembro. So, magandang tanghali kay Flor Delice Espadilla. Sobrang hectic lagi ang oras mo. Parang hindi ka napapagod for the sake of our Filipino people. Opo. Nag-volunteer daw si Attorney Nicky Kicho na sumama sa legal team versus Koko. Kaso okay na daw, sabi ni Kicho. Sayang, sabi ni Attorney No Case. Sabi ni Ma'am Nelly Dorado, what's the use of the law if the powerful person behind it hindi makakasuhan? Well, I don't think this is anymore about how powerful former Senator Koko Pimentel is, but the fact that our law is too vague. Sa protest BBM, anong reaction nyo? I was expecting that because it didn't appear like the NBank wanted to do that either. It's not, how do you call this? Ganito kasi yan eh. In the Supreme Court, there are only 15 of them. Pag ang isa ay na-inhibit, ilan lang ang maaaring mag-take up ng case. No, there's not a lot of them. That being said, we're not even sure if the other justices want to handle this. So there's that. Do I approve or do I agree with the decision to dismiss it? Of course not. I don't. I would have preferred Justice Leonen to inhibit, not just because of the perception that he might not be objective about this, pero to save him also. To save him from the embarrassment of this, to save him from the awkwardness of having to, yung mga ganyan, no? Magde-decide ka against your own, inhibition, hindi pa parang, awkward, di ba? Parang, it's like you're deciding whether or not to push through with this when people are already, the fact na nakasuhan ka, no, not nakasuhan, na that a motion has been filed asking you to inhibit is already embarrassing enough as it is. So para sa akin, it would have been better for the sake of the peace if Justice Leonen had inhibited. That way we can protect his reputation better, or we can handle the fallout better. Okay, erase that. It's not that we want to protect his reputation, because that's unang-una, that's not our job. Our job is to question. But in his case, so that matahimik tayong issue sa kanya. Diba? That, we already know what the public opinion here is on him. So medyo, wow. Ito, sabi ni Owen Friday, knowingly exposing others to a disease is okay. Wow. I agree completely. That's why we have to fix the law. It's imperative. Is that happening? No. Kaya nga nawawala ng tiwala, sabi ni Avelino Taroy, ang mga hampas lupa sa mga politiko pag sila ang lumabag sa batas. Dismissed agad ang kaso, pero yung mga driver na ikinukulong dahil sa social distancing, nga. Nakukulong sila, they're brought to the station, but they're not jailed or fined either. So, ang problema, mas perwisyo yung dun sa, sa ating mga hampas lupa. But again, I will repeat, hindi po ito simply a case of double standard. Although there is that, particularly dun sa first case niya, at saka dun sa lack of ethics cases na final sa kanya dun sa Senate. But more on the, we better clean up this law ASAP. Diba? Pwede na sanang naisama dun sa Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, pero never naman nagawa. Diba? Sabi ni Pesto, kaya siguro malakas ang loob nila, wala ng face shield, wala ding mask sa public places except sa enclosed spaces like malls, buildings, government offices, etc. Sabi ni Erwin Lang Gomez, that's the real problem on the lawmakers, like the issue of PhilHealth. Almost all the laws they create is biased dahil sobrang safeguards for their own benefits. Well, I wouldn't say all, kasi tinutulak naman ng presidente yung mga good laws. But what would we do without him? I don't think the result was right. Sabi ni RKZA, mahirap talaga pag puro corrupt. How can we push Congress to challenge that law? Well, we don't push them to challenge that law, we push them to change it. Kasi nasa power nila yung pagbabago. And when we say Congress, what we mean is the entire legislature. That's Congress with a capital C. We don't mean just the House of Representatives. Do lawmakers have lawyers on their staff so that whatever bill they propose, it's more or less solid and precise? Nasasayang yung oras sa paggawa ng batas kung hindi naman sila effective. Agree completely with Pesto on this one. But they do have lots and lots of lawyers at their disposal. The committee has lawyers. They have lawyers on their staff, or they should have lawyers on their staff. There's a technical working group pa bago pa yan mapasa. May consultations on that. So, my question is, why did they draft this so vaguely as to make it almost unenforceable? Diba? Sabi ni Israel Tan, bakit po kaya hindi nila inaayos yung mga batas para parusa sa paglabag dun sa mga health protocols? Hindi ko din po alam. But I'm sure they're aware of this by now. Sabi ni Elmer Bernardino, palitan na lang natin yung nickname ni Koko Pimentel to untouchable na lang. Merong ganon. Sabi ni Owen Friday, panlaban talaga sa mga hampas lupa is knowledge of our laws. Kaya thank you and all the others for what you're doing. Oh, you're welcome po. Hi, mangyari niyan, sisihin na naman si PRRD, sabi ni Bernalisa Ortiliano, dahil kaalyado si Koko without checking the law. Loopholes ng batas na yan. Sabi ni BJ Cans, totoo ba ang justices walang time limit kung kailan nila pakikilusin ng case? Hindi naman po. Meron naman yung time limit yan. Lalo na sa election cases. Pero, sometimes, some cases are more difficult than others. So, napipigyan ng leeway yan. And the problem is, pagdating sa Supreme Court, sila din ang nag-i-enforce yan. And they don't really like to police their own colleagues or to call out their own colleagues because they have to work with them. Remember, the Supreme Court is a collegial body, di ba? Hello po, good afternoon, sabi ni Ma'am Teresa M. Bakit ganon kaya kapag nasa pwesto sa government, di papatawan ng nararapat na kaso like coconut? Oo nga, pero don't forget na si Pangulo, pagdating dun sa mga kanyang appointees, kaliwat kanan siya nagtatanggal. So, I think it's also party political will. Yun nga ang problema. And I've actually been looking closely at cases involving public officials. It's so rare na nakukonvict sila, lalo-lalo na dun sa Sandigan Bayan. Tignan niyo nga ang nangyari dito kay Senator Bong Revilla, di ba? Sinasabi dun sa decision that he has to return the money, which is tacit acknowledgement that he received the money, and that is the entire crime. Tinumanggap ka ng pera for that purpose. Yun, from somebody in pursuance of something that you were supposed to do. Okay, Erwin Lang Gomez, thank you very much. Sabi ni Elmer Bernardino, that's the problem with some of our laws. They're usually passed for the benefit of ZA or the Congress po, and who has the authority to amend and check it? Laws are created, amended, and repealed only by the legislature. But the Supreme Court can, in cases that are filed before it, when there are actual controversies, they can declare a law unconstitutional or a part of that law unconstitutional and then strike it out. Nalito ko, hirap talaga pag busy ka kalaro. Sabi ni May Munchkin, oy grabe. Karamihan sa kanila, sabi ni Avelino, taroy, walang delikadesa. Sabi ni Pesto, siguro kapag i-amend nila yung RA 11332 para maging enforceable, isama na rin yung provision for facilities kung saan ikukulong yung mga quarantine violators. I agree. Sama-sama sila magkakasakit. Kasi right now, the way things are, hindi nga nakitake into consideration yan. When most of our jails were built, wala pang COVID. So, hindi ganun yung, hindi pa responsive architecture yung ating mga detention centers at saka mga jails. Hi, mangyari niyan, sisisihin na naman si PRRD. Yan yung, nabasa ko na po yan. Just check, wag nilang iboto si Koko sa susunod, problem solved. I agree. Sige, nakalusot si Koko because he definitely knows how to get around, sabi ni JV Patenga. If the law is vague, sabi ni Sinaida Walton, bakit hindi itinatama ang proposed law bago maging law? Ibig sabihin yung nag-legislate at pumirma ay to be to blame? Yes. Sino kapag, siguro kapag i-amend nila yan, hindi. Kawawa po pala mga tao niyan. Sabi ni BJ Cans, walang lusot. Kung nagkaisa sila forevermore, walang solved na kaso. Yeah. Hi, June and Cindy, watching from New Zealand. Hi kay June and Cindy. Huwag nang iboto si Koko. Sabi ni JV Patenga, hindi, we read that one na. That's the reason why laws of the land have loopholes because the legislature are doing it for their benefit and not for Juan de la Cruz. In a lot of instances. But I won't say naman in all. Hi, good afternoon kay Micah Bulataw. And I'm going to take this opportunity, kung kayo ay mga OFWs, we need to make noise kahit lang dito sa social media. And I'm trying to get the emails of our congressmen so that we can email them para makasingit man lang tayo. Well, I don't like to use the word singit, no? Para ma-include natin ang isang provision dito sa batas ni Speaker Velasco na to include the OFWs. I'm not saying that that madali itong ipa-work, 'di ba? Because syempre this was not the original intent of the bill. But sayang yung chance. That's what we're saying. Sayang yung pagkakataon, baka ngayon pa lang mapabago niyan. Pero kasi kung hindi, then you will have to start paying as soon as President Duterte lifts the suspension. That's if he even suspends it. Diba? Sabi ni Fat and Fab, ang hirap siguro sa atin, hindi nararamdaman ng law enforcement. Tapos yung mga batas, ang hirap din i-enforce. Parang manok at itlog theory. Lechon itlog. Buongiorno, sabi ni Leo Greg Imperial. Watching live from Verona, Italy. Sana daw mag-greet siya. Well, nag-greet ka na nga namin. Ano pa ba? Did I miss any questions here? Hi, good morning to everybody. Well, kung wala na pong mga tanong or mga pangkape, maraming salamat sa pag-subscribe to Luminous here sa YouTube as well as to like and subscribe to our videos and follow dun sa Luminous by Trixie, Cruz-Angeles and Ahmed Paglinawan. Nag-umpisa na naman po. Malamang may mga nagre-report na naman sa amin for no reason at all, pero don't forget to check kung naka-follow pa rin po kayo because we really need to catch up with our algorithm again. Thank you very much and everybody. I hope you all have a good day. Don't forget like and share and subscribe. Click to subscribe.